Happy Wednesday! So today we are going to automate the use of the systematic savings formula by programming it into the calculator. The way this works is going to be very similar to what we had in past experiences, either programming the quadratic formula or others. So once we are in the calculator, if we want to program something, we are going to start off in the program section. Now program, you may have some other things here, but we are going to write our own program. This goes back to our systematic savings formula, so you should have that readily available for you. When we are programming something new, we want to go over to the new menu, as I've done here, hit return to, or enter, to create a new program. Now we are going to write two programs today, the first of which is the systematic savings formula, finding the future value. So since we are finding future, I'm going to label this savings F. The next one we're going to do, I'm going to call this savings T, because we're going to write a program that solves for time automatically. Once we've listed out the name, you're going to hit enter. We come up every time we have a new line of code. We start off on the left with the semicolon. Now we have named this savings F. Now thinking about what you do when you do this for yourself, when you do this manually by hand, is you need to figure out what's your deposit amount, the D value, what's your interest amount, the R value, what's the N value, the number of deposits you have per year, and how much time you have. So you go through and you read for that information, you identify the D, the R, the N, the T. Now the calculator needs to do the same thing. We're going to use a command called prompt. Now follow the cursor. I'm going to go over to the program button. When I hit program again, we have a different menu. Here's all of our different controls and other values. We need to put into the calculator the different values, the numerical values that we have. So I'm going to go over to I/O. I/O stands for input output. I'm going to go down to number 2, prompt. Thinking about a writing prompt. It's a question. Prompt means that the calculator is going to ask you what are the specific values. Now I'm going to prompt what are the values that we have, the deposit amount, so we're going to identify variables. First off, I'm going to use alpha D. It's going to ask us what is the deposit amount. Next, comma, we're going to ask it for multiple values. It needs to ask us how often we are making deposits. So alpha N, comma, alpha T, ask us for how long we are depositing, comma, and the last one is our interest rate. Now I'm going to use I instead of R. I'm going to use I instead of R because R is going to mean something else next week when we talk about amortized loans. I'm going to use alpha I. So it's going to ask us, prompt means ask what is the D value, the N value, the T value, and the I, the interest amount. Once we have that, going to hit enter, gives us a new line of code. At this point, we're going to type in the formula itself. So we have, takes a little bit of time, D, be careful with your parentheses. The same way you would use the equation by hand, we're going to enter it in. Now here, exponent, open parentheses, NT, close parentheses, value so that it identifies that that whole thing is your exponent. I'm going to pause here. So we have D, the deposit amount, multiplied by, in parentheses, 1 plus the interest rate over N raised to NT minus 1, the entire numerator, divided by I over N, the interest rate over the number of compounds. That's our formula. So what does that show us? We need to tell the calculator that that is the final amount. So what I'm going to do here, 2 more steps for this stage, is I'm going to use down by the on button. You see exactly above the on button, STO with an arrow. That's the store function. We're going to store the outcome of that equation as F. What that does is says that whole equation, we combine our variables, that gives us the final amount. Enter. One last line of code. We've got program now. Go back into here. Calculator knows what the final amount is. We need to see it. Just like if you're doing this by hand, you need to first identify what the values are, plug them into the formula, and then write your response down. Same thing for the calculator. We need to identify what the values are, plug them into the formula, and then show the outcome. So So I hit program over to IO, input, output. In this case, we need to output or display the value. I'm going to go number 3, display alpha F. So what this is doing, the 3 lines that we have, it asks us for the values, it plugs them into the formula, and then it shows us what the outcome is. Pause here, program your calculator. Going to run an example. It's always important to run an example. Make certain that things work with a formula before you go on. So this is it. To quit out of writing a program to test it, we're going to use second quit. Do not hit the clear button. Do not hit the clear button. That will wipe out a line. You'll need to retype it. I'm going to hit second quit. Gets us back to the home screen. Now when I go to program, we see savings F in there. I'm going to run this program. So highlighting, hitting enter, program savings, hitting enter, it goes through the values, asks us what we want. So we're going to say our deposit amount is $200. Our number of compounds per year, or number of deposits per year, we're going to do $200 every month. We're going to have 10 years. We're going to use t equals 10, and our interest rate is going to be 0.03%. So if we have $200 deposited monthly for 10 years at 3% compound interest, we should end up with $27,948.28. So check your calculator, make certain that works for you. Next, we're going to write a program to solve automatically for t. Now yesterday we saw solving for time requires a little bit of work behind the scenes. We've done that ahead of time. Every single time we solved for t, we did the same exact steps. So that way we can automate the computer, have the calculator do it for us on the spot. So I'm going to go back into program. We're going to write a new program. We're going to write a program for solving for time. So I'm going to call this savings t, in that we are saving the systematic savings program, solving for time. Go into your calculator, do this. Once you're set, hit enter. When we are solving for time, we need the final amount, we need the deposit amount, we need the interest rate, we need the number of annual deposits, F, D, I, and N. We're solving for t. So we're going to start off, the calculator once again needs to ask us what are those values. So we go into program, over to IO, number 2, prompt. We need to prompt for variable F, comma. We need to prompt for variable I, the interest rate, comma. Prompt for the number of compounds or number of deposits per year, N, comma. Prompt for the deposit amount. So we've prompted for future interest rate, number of deposits, and the deposit itself. All that's left is t. Now, if we recall from yesterday, every single time that we solved for the t value, we did the exact same steps. So what I've done on paper by hand is I've worked out a formula that solves for t. I'm going to type that in now. The next line is going to be our code that says, have these variables, plug them into the formula. That, like what we did for the past one, there's the formula. The calculator takes the values, plugs them in. We need to save it as time. So I'm going to hit bottom left, right above the on button, store alpha t. It's going to save it as time. And lastly, thinking about this, we need to plug things into the calculator, have the calculator run the formula, then it needs to show us the answer. So I'm going to hit enter. And we need to show the answer, show us the time. Back to program, we're going to display. So program, IO, number 3, display, alpha t. Getting out of here, I will second quit. When we have the program already up there from before, I'm going to test this out. So I'm going to go back to savings t now. Let's see if it works. I'm going to say my final amount is $100,000. My interest rate, let's say 4%. Make certain that you've changed that to a decimal. Let's do this weekly, and we are depositing $150. So the idea here is we are going to deposit $150 every week in 4% interest until we reach $100,000. How long will that take? It should take a little bit more than 10 years. So check your calculator, make sure that it works. Now the idea behind this is that if you have something that you're doing the same steps over and over, you can very easily automate your calculator. If you need to change anything, if something did not work, we'll go into Program, over to Edit, and then select the program. Now the idea here is every time writing a program, doing a formula, it's going to be exactly the same thing. You will prompt for the variables that you need to enter. You'll put in the formula, store it as a variable, and then display the variable. So we've written two programs. One program solving for F, one program solving for T. If you would like to go in and write a program solving for D, go right ahead, use the same steps. That's what we got. Good luck and see you later.